Hi, my name is Cameron. I'm going to be presenting on mental health and its effect, or mental health in children and divorce. So, first, some context: divorce is an unfortunate tragedy that many people undergo in life, and oftentimes the unintended side effect is it often negatively affects children. And from according to Robert Schoen, from mid 20th century to present day, divorce rates have skyrocketed at an unprecedented number. And oftentimes divorce causes many stressors for children, such as interparental conflict and socioeconomic status issues, such as struggling to pay for food, or only being with one parent instead of two. And according to Paul Amato, an unhappy home environment marked by high levels of marital discord is less than optimal for the development of children. A result of interparental conflict is often negative for their children. All right. So first, the gap. There has been a significant lack of research in mental health of children of divorce in the recent years, especially on adolescents. So I chose to go and fill this gap, focus on teens of divorce. And this is important because many marriages end in divorce, and as a result, many children are going to be significantly affected by divorce. And it's important to understand the possible ramifications of these significant mental health issues among many children who undergo divorce. And this is also important to me, as I am also a child of divorce, so I'm very intrigued by this issue. So this leads me to my research question: how does interparental conflict and divorce affect the mental health of children, or mental health of teenage children in divorce? So the literature, first we're going to be focusing on the psychological well-being of children. According to Paul Amato, children in divorce tend to have a lower psychological well-being later in life as a result of divorce. As they grow older, they tend to hold on to some mental health issues, such as anxiety and depression. And also, he found that general well-being declines with more family transitions, such as subsequent marriages and divorces with step family, which doesn't help children adjust to this new lifestyle. And according to Lisa Stroschein, parental divorce is often accompanied with heightened levels of anxiety and depression among children. Now, socioeconomic status. According to Barrett, overall, there have been lower depressive symptoms found among adolescents from two-parent households. So as a result of divorce, many children are subjected to being single-parent households for extended periods of time. Most people do not remarry after divorce. And having the two-parent household is a better sense of stability for these children, and often leads to a less stress-filled and tumultuous lifestyle. And according to Kaplan, families of lower economic status are more likely to divorce, and this is a problem because many people, with result of struggling to pay their bills and for food, and just overall just not having enough money, that can lead to much more interparental conflict and marital discord, and often results in a higher rate of divorces in those lower economic brackets. And finally, according to Richard Asseltine, economic disadvantages play a central role in long-term adjustment to divorce. So many children, after their parents get divorced, many people aren't privileged enough to remain stable in their lifestyle, especially relying on a single-parent income. So that often leads to many economic challenges, and they don't have access to any other outlets such as therapy or sports, or even school sometimes. So economic disadvantages are definitely central in that role. Finally, we have interparental conflict. According to Forehead et al., higher levels of interparental conflict are detrimental for adolescents, as they often see their parents fighting, and that is never good for children. They see that and they think, oh, maybe it's my fault, or they wonder what's going on, especially if they're younger, and that can definitely lead to many cases of anxiety and depression. And according to McKinnick and Hansel, adolescents living in intact families with high conflict had significantly poor well-being. So even sometimes this offers a new perspective with even with intact families who don't get divorced, oftentimes they still undergo lots of fighting and marital discord, which doesn't help the children either. So even if they stay together, if there's still much conflict and marital discord between the parents, that does not help either. And according to Palomado, marital discord has long-term negative implications for the children involved. Like I've said several times throughout the study, intraparental conflict is an overall negative for children, obviously, and whenever they are present for it, it is obviously going to negatively affect them and give them many mental health issues as a result. So now to my method, I performed semi-structured interviews. They're about 10 minutes in length, and I would inquire about the divorce process that they went through. And I talk about their mental health, and I specifically talk about their interparental conflict and what they were exposed to, their socioeconomic status, and what mental health issues they possibly could have, such as anxiety or depression. And then afterwards, I performed a thematic analysis by going through the transcripts and trying to find common themes between all my participants to come to a conclusion. So as a result, I conducted 4 interviews, and I found that there were increased feelings of stress and anxiety during the divorce process, but over time, they definitely started to lessen. They were all present for some interparental conflict, however, it was very little. A lot of it was hidden from them. And they were definitely significantly affected from this divorce, especially with their relationships with their parents and siblings, some of their extended family and friends, and also gave them feelings of stress, anxiety, and depression. But like before, they tended to heal themselves, and after the first few years, they tend to dissipate. And if they still had these feelings, it would most likely not related to the divorce, and maybe not as heavily as one would suspect. So overall, they all adjusted well to the divorce process. Here's some of the transcripts I had, just to give you some examples of some of the questions and the answers and how I analyzed them. I highlight them and make comments on the side, and create comparisons between different responses. Finally, discussion. The participants were mostly not negatively affected by the divorce. This could be because they were at an older age. Most were at an older age when their parents were divorced, which it has been found in many studies that when you are younger and your parents split, there's lots of interparental conflict and other issues surrounding that often leads to more feelings of anxiety and depression as you grow older. All 4 participants were of an above average socioeconomic status, so they had access to things like therapy and sports and other outlets to maybe take their mind off the divorce or help them deal with this complex issue that they're going through. So that is one theory that I have on why they were not as negatively affected by the divorce as other kids might be. And also, interparental conflict was kept to a minimum, at least in front of them. They weren't exposed to as much fighting and verbal or violent at all compared to many other kids. So that is also probably a good reason as to why they were not as significantly affected as other kids might be. Also, there were not as many family transitions, so there weren't too many subsequent marriages and divorces between step parents. So most of the time they kept them a relatively stable lifestyle after the divorce, which definitely helped them adjust to the lifestyle much easier. Finally, some limitations. There was a very limited number of interviews I conducted. I only did 4, which, considering the scope of this study and the scale, that's fine, but there definitely could have been more. If I had upped the range, maybe like 10, 15 people, which I definitely could have, that could have given me some more interesting results, and I could have been able to compare them a bit better. And it was a relatively small demographic as well, with all white kids from Brophy of a higher economic status, so they all had relatively the same answers, with little variation between them.
Terrific. I got a few questions for you, Cam, and then we'll wrap this up. So first, how did your initial exploration of the scholarly conversation help to inform your questions?
Well, originally I was just kind of going through the mental health effects of children with divorce, because I definitely have experienced experiences like that, and I was interested in that. And as I went through, I found many different factors that could come into play, like socioeconomic status or interparental conflict, or just general stress because of all these changing moving parts in their lifestyle. And I eventually landed on interparental conflict because it seemed to be the most common and prevalent issue throughout all these cases of divorce. So I decided to go with that, and that led me down a deep rabbit hole full of lots of amazing studies that helped me form that research question.
Okay, terrific. As a follow-up to that, what are the real-world implications or consequences? Who is this research for?
This is just for people who are maybe studying mental health among children, and a lot of the times there are obviously many mental health issues among teens, especially in this day and age, and a lot of that can be linked to divorce divorce or other past traumas. So research like this, researching the causes of mental health from divorce and how that has happened can help provide better context for mental health discussions in the future.
Okay. And then the final question, what was the most important research skill that you acquired going through this process? And what other things in your life could you apply that skill to?
Repeat the question.
Sure. What was the most important skill, research skill that you acquired in the process? And what other things in your life could you apply that skill to?
Definitely the most important research skill I found through this whole process was just being able to put a dedicated amount of time to just go through the literature of this field and just to find the best possible sources I can and to devote a dedicated amount of time so I don't end up waiting too long to actually do my research. So that's probably the most useful skill, just being able to learn how to not procrastinate as much and just be more effective and schedule my research to basically make sure I follow a good schedule and stay updated and don't fall behind. So that could definitely be applied to many things such as jobs, definitely school. And I think this is an overall very useful skill, just to keep yourself on a strict schedule that can help you stay updated and up to date and stuff like that.
Terrific. Thanks, Cameron. Well done.